On today's episode of Locked On Canucks, we take a look at the Canucks Young Stars' impressive start to their journey in Pentiction. We start looking at the Canucks' projected lines. We start with the fourth line, and we dive into the Canucks' biggest offseason acquisition. It is Locked On Canucks, and it starts now.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Locked On Canucks, the show that keeps you locked in on all things Vancouver Canucks. Of course, I'm your host, Justin Pooney. I hope you guys are doing well. Of course, you can find our show on Twitter at Locked On Canucks. Please also like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube, type in Locked On Canucks. I also want to thank you for making Locked On Canucks your first listen every day. For myself, you can, of course, find me on Twitter at _process sports. That's _process sports. Also on Instagram, process sports with an extra C in the process. So that's where you can find me and all of my work and all of more Canucks content. So in today's show, we will look back at last night's opening game for the Vancouver Canucks Young Stars in Pentiction, a victory over the Calgary Flames Young Stars. Well, then, as we tee up to going towards training camp, I'm going to be looking at, defense pairings, forward lines, and goaltenders. First things first, we're going to start with the Canucks' fourth line and kind of look at who might be playing on the fourth line, what are some expectations we have for those players, and how is this line or going to be improved or regressed from last year. And also, the Canucks got a new acquisition, which is not only heartwarming, but also very exciting. So let's just dive right into it right away. So last night in Pentiction, the Canucks Young Stars got off to a wonderful start, beating the Calgary Flames 3-0. Goals from Arshdeep Bains, Linus Karlsson, and Latvian goalie Arturs Silvos with a shutout. Of course, last year he was with Abbotsford, and then he, as the third goalie, would end up in the ECHL, and he played well. He talked about how he was practicing so much the past couple years and finally able to get back into a game. It felt so good to get back into that net routine. And he was busy in the first 30 minutes of the game. He faced a lot of shots and kept the game tied going into the third period. Then afterwards, the second half of the game, the Canucks prospects kind of picked it up, and then Silvos only took 4 shots the second half of the game. So that was a very positive start. Silvos is preparing to play in Abbotsford this season, and it definitely looks good to be on the right foot with a shutout. It's also the most important thing. Is a confidence booster. I expect him to be in camp, and all of just the extra reps you get in net, especially for goalies. We saw that with Mikey DiPietro. He just wasn't getting the game time reps he needed to develop his game. Of course, a lot of that can attribute back to when they had the COVID situation. They carried an extra taxi squad goalie, and he didn't play at all. And especially for goalies who need reps to be in the crease to play to improve their game, whether they get shelled or scored, it's a learning experience for them. And Silvos is going to get that. He got some game action today. He's going to get that at training camp, and hopefully we'll get some time in Abbotsford. So that was in the goaltending front. Then the main point that I want to get to is Arshdeep Bains. Of course, the Surrey native Arshdeep Bains. It was evident he was the best player on the ice last night. He looked very good wearing his hometown Canucks jersey. Of course, he's from Surrey, just where I'm from as well. It's just awesome to see. I mentioned this when he signed with the Canucks. It's amazing to see somebody from Surrey, from the Punjabi community, a community that, we're not native to hockey. In India, there's no real ice hockey, right? We're not used to it. But just to see the game grow in this community in Vancouver, in the Lower Mainland, it's amazing to see. Now to have a guy who led the WHL in scoring last year, which is a very, no small feat whatsoever, to have him, put the Canucks jersey on and perform the way he did in the Young Stars tournament open last night was very, very impressive. And he even said it. He said it was very special. He thinks that he kind of mentioned how it was relief to get it out of the way, which was kind of I can attest to that. Imagining just all the hype and all the stuff that people are throwing on, being from the Lower Mainland and being able to wear the Canucks jersey. There's a certain amount of pressure that comes with that, I assume, and I think he handled it great. He was grinding it all game long, making great, smart plays in both the offensive and defensive zone. And then he drove to the net, clean up a rebound, and score, which showing that, he can go to the tough areas to score goals. And then, the Canucks crowd jumped into the Bruce There It Is chant, which was impressive to see. It just shows you how much love Bruce Brew not only has in Vancouver, but the province of British Columbia. And I just think that it was just a really nice start to the season. And going back to Arshdeep Bains, I think the one thing that we've seen, just whether it's been through practice or just through this Young Stars thing, is that he loves the work ethic. He works extremely hard. And then I think just seeing that and, looking at, you're able to see this guy in Abbotsford and have success throughout the year. There'll be a reason why a lot of people want to come and go to Abbotsford, watch games play. It's going to be because of him, because he's a local kid who's, making waves in the community that, is going to get behind him and support him like that's their own, which he is. And I think that's very impressive and very exciting to see. To go forward on the game, we saw Jeremy Colton behind the bench for the first time. Of course, he's replacing Trent Cull as the Abbotsford Canucks head coach. It was for Colton, of course, who had some NHL experience with Chicago. For him, it just must be good to get back behind the bench and just, get back into the rhythm of things and coaching in a certain way. Of course, Troy Nielsen had a very nice goal as well. So all in all, just from that game and from that aspect that I grasped was, it was very impressive win. And it just continues this positive mindset that for me, that the Canucks have going forward. Now, they do play today at 2 p.m. Eastern against the Jets Young Stars, which features some high-end talent like Brad Lambert and Cole Perfetti. The Canucks will practice on Saturday morning, and Danila Klimovich is expected to speak to the media. And I think that, again, as this tournament goes along, you're just going to get more and more familiar with these young players. And another thing it was just great to see Canucks hockey again. I know I caught the highlights of it last night. And I think it was just, it gets your psyche up, your energy level up. Like, I'm ready for the puck to drop this season. And it was a good test. The crowd was packed. The crowd was into it. And it's so good to have this Penticton All-Star game. It's not Penticton All-Star game. Penticton Young Stars tournament back. And I think it's just it's continuing this positivity train I have for the Canucks this year. They get up to a good start. Their prospects look good. There's good things going forward. The crowd is into it. There's a lot of positivity. And I think going forward, it's just going to help the big club, hopefully, get off to a great start this year. And speaking of the great club, not the great club, the big club, which hopefully will be great, I'm going to take a look at their fourth line going into this upcoming season and what there is that we can expect from them. But first, I want to talk to you guys about the fine folks at BetOnline.net. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your pro and college football betting needs and sports info this season. Find all the latest football league developments, game matchups, news, and podcasts, including this year's opening week's games. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. The fastest and easiest way to check in on all of your favorite sports and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Welcome back to Locked On Canucks, the show that keeps you locked in on all things Vancouver Canucks. One thing I forgot to mention off the tip of the show that I wanted to get in was the Canucks are changing their goal song. So, of course, they've been playing the Van Halen song since the last couple of years, but they're going to change it this season. For me, I hope it is a hip-hop related song, being in the hip-hop head I am, but I do not believe they will go that route. They'll probably go something maybe local or maybe something more generic, but they're giving it a change, so hopefully we'll be hearing that song a lot, whatever that song is, this season. But I'm going to kick things off as a tee up into training camp. I'm going to be going through every line, a forward line, every defense pair, and the goalies. Just teeing us up for training camp and the preseason, which is very fastly approaching. Excuse me. So today we're going to start off with the fourth line, which has no returning members from last year. Yes, Alex Chiasson is no longer with the Vancouver Canucks as he signed a PTO with the Arizona Coyotes. Of course, they brought in Curtis Lazar, Dakota Joshua, maybe even a guy like Linus Karlsson, who we've seen the Young Stars tournament, could be on the fourth line. So we know, I think as of right now, we know 2 or 3 will be probably Dakota Joshua and Curtis Lazar. And what can we expect from this fourth line? Well, let's key in on Curtis Lazar. Curtis Lazar is going to be the main factor, the main cog of this fourth line. He was brought in on a cheaper deal, a low-term deal that excuse me, on a proper fourth line deal. There's no more 4-year deals for like the Jay Beagles or the Antoine Roussels. This is a fourth line deal that the Canucks nailed and got it done properly. But what am I expecting from Curtis Lazar? I'm expecting him to win faceoffs, play a physical game, kill penalties, and be just a guy that could keep the puck out of the Canucks' own end. When I look at a fourth line of a team, I'm not expecting goals. I'm not expecting, offensive production. What I'm expecting is when you get out there, you're able to get the puck successfully out of our own end and keep the puck out of our end. That's it. Just keep the puck out of our end. And I also want those guys to kill penalties and be agitators. Be those guys that can, if possible, can get under the skin of other players. And I think Curtis Lazar can do that. Maybe not get under the player's skin, but he can win faceoffs. He will kill penalties. He will be a major, prominent player in the Canucks PK. So when I look at that, Dakota Josh was a very big player. Patrick Levine said that he believes, and Jim Rutherford have said that they believe this player can play in their forward group, the NHL forward group. So when I think about this Canucks fourth line, it's going to be different. I want to see guys, play with some speed. I want to see them play with some ferocity, keep the puck out of their own end, and just play smart. I think when you think about a fifth or sixth defenseman or a fourth line, the less you talk about them on a game-to-game basis, the better. If they go hidden, that means they're not making mistakes. That means they're not causing any trouble. That means they are just doing their job and getting it done and letting the players that are paid the big bucks to get on the offensive side of the puck. So when I look at that, I think Bruce Boudreau might be able to tinker with that. Could we see a guy like Niels Höglander slide down there? Maybe his skill set is definitely for a top 6, but we know with Niels Höglander that the top 6 is already packed. What the top 6 is going to look like. We just know the line combinations, but there is no room for Niels Höglander. So if he can reinvent his game a bit and take a bottom 6 role and play that way, I think that could be something very successful because he adds an element where he has skill. And if he could play that bit more sandpaper game and kind of play with that more of a defensive mindset, I think that can be something very helpful for the Vancouver Canucks. Going for tomorrow or the next episode, we're going to look at the third line. And I think just the final tie-up on this, the fourth line has to be part of the solution. It can't be it can't be a nagging issue. It can't be an anchor because before the Canucks fourth line, if you look at all the teams that are successful, they have the ability to roll 4 lines. If you want to be successful, you have to be able to roll 4 lines. You cannot the NHL is not built anymore where you can just bury a line and play them a couple shifts a game and then bury them for the rest of it. You have to be able to roll 4 lines in the NHL today if you want to be successful because the game is so fast paced and so there's injuries. You have to be able to roll lines consistently and play that way. So I'm hoping that this new looked fourth line for the Vancouver Canucks can do that and can provide a certain spark for the Vancouver Canucks going forward. Finally, after this break, we're going to end this show off on a positive, wholesome, heartwarming note. And stick around for that because it's going to put a smile on your face like it's going to put a smile on my face. And welcome back to Locked On Canucks, the show that keeps you locked in on all things Vancouver Canucks. We're going to, like I said, the Canucks might have made their most popular offseason acquisition. The Canucks are getting a team dog, and they're looking for fans to name their future furry teammate. The Canucks are partnering with BC Guide Dogs, and they will be sponsoring a litter of puppies and raising a service dog. After the training is completed, this, future Canucks team member, puppy will work with a visually impaired and a child with autism or a veteran or first responder. Service dogs, of course, play a vital in a team statement. The service dogs play a vital role in the community by improving quality of life for many, including assisting in mobility, lowering stress, increasing happiness, but they are high in demand. The Canucks pup is a special opportunity to help meet this need and make a positive impact in the community. So bravo, Canucks. I love this idea. And I was scrolling on Twitter to see some of the ideas, and I just put a big smile on my face. There was Bork Besser, Elias Pupperson, Fetcher Demko, Cinnamon Hughes. So I mean, there's a lot of good ideas out there. I want to hear from you guys. What do you guys think the Canucks pup should be named? I want you guys to drop it in the comments section below. And I want to see what you guys have to think. For me, I kind of like something that ties along the lines of, I like the Bork Bessler one, or the Frisbee Thatcher Doggo. That was a good one I saw online. Barkus Naslin, Powell Bure. I liked all of those names. But I want to hear from you guys. So, and also just to retie that in, tomorrow we will have an episode following the Canucks Young Stars game against the Jets. We'll go through that once again, look at the Canucks third line, and talk about some other fun stuff, because like I said, it's about to get serious soon. The season's about to start. It's about to ramp up, and I want to make sure that we are all locked in and ready to go. So again, I want to thank you for making Locked On Canucks your first listen of the day. For your next listen, Locked On NHL. Locked On experts give you a daily 30-minute podcast on all things NHL all year long. Stay up to date on everything in the hockey world. Locked On NHL, your daily 30-minute podcast. All right, guys, take care. Stay safe. I'll talk to you later.